Good morning, New Zealand. Hope you had a great weekend. It is Monday, start of a new week. Am I going to tell you how many days it is till Christmas or Christmas Eve? I'll come up with that. Welcome to Daybreak. Yep, it is the 24th of November, which means basically 1 month to Christmas Eve. So it is countdown time, isn't it? We've got the Christmas tree up. It's been up for a couple of weeks. So, in fact, it was probably later than the kids actually wanted it. Anyway, Monday morning, start of a new week. Hope you had a great weekend. Let's get straight into it. And look, just a comment about, no surprise really, but the appallingly biased, flawed coverage of the puberty blockers decision last week. The media, the media have been told that their trust is going through the floor because they won't give balanced coverage. They won't present both sides so that people can come to their own conclusion. No, the media set out to indoctrinate us with a narrative, a clear narrative. And so straight after the decision, they basically went running off to every person they could find who was outraged and offended and hurty by the decision. And it was just a constant line-up. In fact, even the New Zealand doctor, this is where you need to be very wary, not about individual doctors, but about the doctor groups and the medical associations, counselling associations, psychiatrist associations. They have all been hijacked and taken over by radical leftists. And nothing sensible comes out of them. And so New Zealand doctor had no problem going around and, it's a culture war. Yes, nothing to do with health, nothing to do with overseas research. It is a culture war, according to New Zealand doctor. I mean, shame on them. Newsroom, funny, they said that, the decision was overruling personal choice and parental responsibility. I actually clapped back at them on X, on Twitter, and I said, Newsroom, could you please point me to your article where you also complained about the conversion therapy ban law, which also overruled personal choice and parental responsibility. And criminalised parents as well, and criminalised counsellors, pastors, and medical professionals who didn't want to go down the puberty blocker route and who wanted to reaffirm biological sex. No, Newsroom didn't have that because they're far left and they wouldn't know bias if it smacked them in the face. You can see I'm on a bit of a roll on this because I am getting so tired of media. I mean, the media will go down in a flaming heap of bias and destroy their own industry rather than listen to what people are asking for. And they can only blame themselves. Anyway, the New York Post, we were world famous for a good reason. There we go, New York Post. New Zealand bans puberty blockers for transgender minors. Radio New Zealand, by the way, you pay for Radio New Zealand. It's taxpayer funded, 66.6 million, which is a very apt figure, 666, but it's the accurate figure. 66.6 million to fund Radio New Zealand to push a one-sided narrative. And they were going overboard. They had Dame Sue Bagshaw on, who I've exposed as to why they run. To her, check out my most recent McBlog. And you might think, that's okay having her on once. No, not once, twice. I'd already had her on a previous program as well, but they wanted to reinforce it on Saturday morning. And then they also reprinted this, why politicians overriding doctors set a dangerous precedent. Yes, they didn't say that during the conversion therapy law ban. They didn't say that during the abortion law debate or the euthanasia debate. They're not saying it when ACT are trying to expand the euthanasia law to basically force medical professionals and hospices, for example, to provide euthanasia. And then, of course, Radio New Zealand also rolls out this is an interesting title, Halt to Puberty Blockers curses young transgender women, so in other words, dudes, boys, curses boys to stigma. Why? Why is there stigma about recognizing your biological sex and being reaffirmed as either male or female according to chromosomes and what you were born as. But anyway, that's the narrative. Now, the interesting thing amongst all this is that they never once tried to get in contact with Zara. And so, as you'll probably know, you might have got the newsletter. We sent out a newsletter saying, well, it's time for our supporters and the general public to be the media and to share stories about the harm of puberty blockers. And Zara tells it as it is, and the negative things that she went through, the consequences, the effect on her mentally, physically, the ongoing effects, in fact. But, media doesn't want to know. The Human Rights Commission, which should be disbanded and, completely defunded today, they put out a stupid statement. It's a human rights infringement if kids can't be chemicalized and pretend to be the opposite sex. They also said it was a breach of the treaty because apparently somewhere in the interpretation of the treaty was gender identity. Yes, apparently the signatories to the Treaty of Waitangi in 1840 were actually signing it so that kids could change their biological sex. Who knew? Who knew? Just interestingly, this is the number of kids getting puberty blockers, and so it's their first ever prescription. So some of these kids will be taking them over a couple of years, but you'll see there that there was this massive spike as, there was this cultural push on it. There was rapid onset gender dysphoria, peer groups, inside out going in and brainwashing kids. And so it sort of went up until 2021, and then 2022 started to decrease because some of the research was coming out. European countries were pushing back. And then you'll see there's been the drop due to the Cass report. The Ministry of Health came out with their statement saying, actually, we can't prove that this is effective, and we can't prove this is safe either. That alone, you've got these medical groups saying politicians interfering. The Ministry of Health themselves said it wasn't safe. And interestingly, there was this doctor. Now, I just need to check the description of the doctor for you before I play her. So she spoke at a conference, and she's from the University of London, and she's a neuropsychologist. And she says this about puberty blockers.
That's why I was really, really surprised to read that you can just pause puberty and then pick up 2 years later or 3 years later, and nothing will happen. Because everything we know about the other windows of opportunity tells us that that's not the case. So if that was the case, that would be amazing. So what's the evidence for that? Let's have a look at that. So just to recap, brain development isn't linear. It follows a predetermined path. Puberty triggers a complex cascade of events in the brain that are critical in that process, particularly the development of executive function, social cognition, memory, new learning, emotional regulation. So there are very good reasons to be concerned about the impact of any treatment that might interrupt this.
Yeah, so typical media coverage, they're just pushing it, but they're ignoring the biological science. So what do you expect? Actually, somebody's just reminded me, if you want to hear a very good interview, I actually shared it on Friday. Sean Plunkett from the platform did an interview with Dame Sue Bagshaw, and it's a train wreck for Dame Sue Bagshaw. She just thinks that people can choose their identity, and biological sex really doesn't matter. So anyway, look, let's just check some other information. Oh, that's right. So you might have heard the commentary that basically the government is going to wait for research to be done in the UK, and it's going to be done over the next 4 to 5 years. This is it. And the NHS has somehow got ethical approval to be jabbed, for hundreds of children to be jabbed with puberty blockers. The controversial clinical study will see as many as 226 children as young as 10 who believe they are transgender take part. They will be injected with drugs to examine whether they could safely be used in future to help young people change their bodies and become more like the gender they self-identify with rather than their gender at birth. Researchers dismissed accusations that the trial could amount to coercing children into taking the drugs, which potentially damage fertility, bone density, and brain development. and they insisted it would be safe. But campaigners say it's outrageous, and it is outrageous. Look, I just want you to think of a contrast. Imagine if there was a study to give children with anorexia nervosa weight loss pills to see if we could further endorse their anorexia and make them feel better about themselves. I mean, it's affirming the delusion and it's radical experimentation on children. Basically, the NHS wants to use 10-year-olds as lab rats, which is an absolute disgrace. So hopefully that study will be challenged. Just on the related topic, Auckland Pride, it's got so much money, it's got nothing better to do. So it's going to go to court because it's desperate to have dudes play in women's sports. Look, you know, they go on about inclusive. Memo to Auckland Pride, nothing's exclusive about the policy. You just got to play in the team that aligns with your biological sex and with the right balls. End of story. Now, what else? Oh, yes. The TV awards were held last week, end of last week, and apparently One News got a number of awards. And I just simply posted a question on their account as to whether they also got the Editing of the Year award. You know, the editing, the various Trump speeches and the Gaza coverage and the climate alarmism. Editing of the Year award. I'm sure One News would have got that, or maybe some of the other media. Speaking of media, BBC, this is what they found. They found that a study of their stories, the BBC had they were 3 times more likely to vilify Israel than they were terrorist group Hamas. Which says it all. And of course, New Zealand has been exactly the same with their media coverage of abortion, euthanasia. Actually, euthanasia, they were fairly balanced. Abortion, conversion therapy, the protest at Parliament, the COVID mandates protest at Parliament. Yeah, very biased. All right, what else did I find? Oh, some latest data just on health survey came out, Ministry of Health, and they found out this is the number of people who identify as LGBT, gay and lesbian. And so this is a study that's done by the Ministry of Health. And so you get this comparison. And as you can see, it's 1.7%. And it's tiny, as you can see by that trend line there at the top right. And you can see also bottom right, the age distribution, slightly more likely to identify as that, but then decreases over time. This is the one for bisexual. And, you know, bisexual, I mean, I often say that bisexual basically is you got hormones rushing through your body, and so anything looks attractive. That's my definition of bisexual. And once again, 2.7 sort of think that anything looks attractive. But actually, interestingly, there, top right, slight decrease. And you can see there, very trendy amongst, bottom right, you can see very trendy amongst the younger groups, and then it virtually completely dies off. So just some interesting data out of there. One of the most disturbing bits of data out of the Ministry of Health research that's just come out is this rate of psychological distress, and it's increased in all age groups, but up the top there, you see that 15 to 24 age group. You can see there was that massive spike during lockdowns, but if you look at the trend line, it's just constantly going up, as it is with even 25 to 34-year-olds. But it's actually across all age groups. All age groups are having more psychological distress, which is, you know, really very concerning. Now, one of the debates, of course, is how much does social media, how much has that really added to all of this? An interesting survey out of the US recently about what young people think about social media and the effect on them. Here's a little summary.
Research Center finds nearly half of teenagers say that social media has a mostly negative effect on their peers. That's a big jump in just 3 years, from 32 to 48%. Negative impact comes in a few forms, like the unrealistic expectations set by influencers, something especially difficult for young girls, with 1 in 4 saying it hurts their mental health and 1 in 5 their confidence. There's also the feedback, or lack of it, from followers. Ka Anderson co-authored the study, which polled over 1,300 teens and parents nationwide. The fatigue number is up to 45%. Similarly, 4 in 10 teens say it also negatively impacts their sleep and overall productivity.
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing is that this is out of the mouth of teens, and in this whole debate about social media and social media bans, there hasn't been a lot of discussion about, well, what do teens think? What do they want? Do they want restrictions? Are they concerned about the effect of social media? But the research shows that they are. In fact, I got sent this video over the weekend, and I thought this really sums up often the naivety of what we think about social media and the effect on teens. And I often say to groups, would you leave your window open on the bedroom of your child just so anyone can come in and speak to them at any time and basically talk about anything? No, we wouldn't, would we? We would keep our kids safe. And yet they access their phone, and that same type of ideology and threats and danger are coming to them via their phone. And this little skit, I thought, summed it up very nicely.
Hey, kiddo, it's about time for bed, okay?
Okay.
Well, remember, there's a box in the corner over there with all the pornographic material that's ever been made in the world, even the really weird stuff that could scar you for life. I'm trusting you not to look in there, okay?
Okay.
Feelings are for losers.
Oh, and this guy's gonna be in your corner all night, just randomly spewing out hateful things. Just ignore him, okay? While I'm thinking of it, there's an order form on your desk where you can purchase illegal drugs. The mean girls from your school are gonna be standing there talking about you all night. And this Russian hacker's gonna keep asking for your password.
I'm not hacker. Amazon customer service.
Just need you to ignore him, okay?
Love you, buddy. We ask too much of our kids when we give them a smartphone. Let's change the norm. Together.
Maybe we go around the room and share social security numbers.
Join the movement at smartphonefreechildhoodus.com.
Yeah, very, very good video. But I just thought it really points out the fact that when we, we sort of think that kids are safe using smartphones, we let them use them in the bedroom, or we didn't in our house, still don't. And the danger is it's like an open window and letting anybody in to talk to our kids at any time. Interestingly, this is a news story that is just out, reported by Reuters. And it says that, so basically there's a lawsuit being taken, suing Meta, Google, and TikTok and Snapchat on behalf of school districts around the US. And basically what they've found out as a result of discovery, which is, in a legal case, evidence has to be disclosed. They found out that Meta is Facebook and Instagram. Meta shut down internal research into the mental health effects of Facebook and Instagram after finding causal evidence that its products harmed users' mental health. In a 2020 project, Meta scientists worked with a survey firm, Nielsen, to gauge the effect of deactivating Facebook and Instagram. And to the company's disappointment, people who stopped using Facebook for a week reported lower levels of depression, anxiety, loneliness, and social comparison. Rather than publishing those findings or pursuing additional research, the filing states that Meta called off further work and internally declared that the negative study findings were tainted by existing media narrative. But privately, the company knew that the research was valid. And an unnamed staff researcher allegedly wrote the Nielsen study shows causal impact on social comparison, unhappy face emoji. Despite Meta's own work documenting a causal link between its products and negative mental health effects, the filing alleges Meta told Congress that it had no ability to quantify whether its products were harmful to teenage girls. And yet they knew that it was. And you might remember in 2021, Mark Zuckerberg said that he wouldn't say that child safety was his top concern. Mark Zuckerberg founded Facebook. Meta is now Meta. He said, when I have a number of other areas I'm more focused on, like building the metaverse. And Zuckerberg also shot down or ignored requests to better fund child safety work. I mean, that is damning. And that is the whole reason that during this whole debate, I've been calling on, actually, it's not up to governments and we should stop pointing the finger at parents all the time. It's actually about big tech who have been for so long unaccountable and have been exploiting our kids, targeting our kids, putting algorithms and flooding their social media feeds with objectionable material. And it's time that we held big tech accountable. And it shows that they knew that there was a problem as well. Right. And interestingly, I just thought, around the whole age verification thing, interestingly, online casinos or online gambling, the government's looking at that, which is a bit scary to me because, once again, the whole age verification is a concern. Now, there are some programs around that possibly can do age verification based on just looking at your face. Apparently AI is that smart enough to know that it looks at me and knows that I'm an old fella. And it can look at other people and know that they are young. But, how accurate that is, I am not sure. All right, just a couple of other quick stories. Trump was right. Nigeria does have religious persecution. And in fact, I noticed that One News and 3 News both reported the story, almost as though they were admitting that Trump actually was right. Students were kidnapped from a Catholic school on Friday, and 52 students were kidnapped. Other attacks, 25 schoolgirls from a boarding school in another state, and in another one, 38 worshippers were taken from a church by gunmen. So Nigeria is a basket case. Trump was right, and the media are finally starting to wake up. So I'm looking forward to the marches over the Harbour Bridge by the Greens and Common Grace Aotearoa and other left-wing groups to, actually raise the protest about that. Just one other thing, if I got time, yes, I have some interesting studies out of the US, basically with the push around toxic masculinity. If you have children, you're destroying the planet, they're leaving a carbon footprint, basically, insulting trad wives. There's been a turn away, especially by females, and 2 studies I want to show you. One is this one, that more than 50% of American women under the age of 50 who don't have children say they have no desire to become mothers. And this is as the nation's fertility reaches an all-time low. It's the massive family study, American Family Survey that Brigham Young University does every year. And it basically showed that the fertility rate in the US is less than 1.6 children per woman, which is the same as New Zealand, going through the floor. And also, 45% of respondents who don't have children only 45% who don't have children said that they'd like to become parents. 38% stated they didn't want children. The remainder were undecided. Now, that's one problem. But then they also, Pew Research did some research with 12th graders, which is year 13 for New Zealand. So we're talking about 7th formers for you boomers. 7th formers, final year of high school. So 17, 18-year-olds. And basically, they found that between 1993 and 2023, 12th graders, so 7th formers, year 13, are less likely than in the past to say they want to marry. But the greatest drop has been that teal line, orange line, which is girls. Massive drop in girls wanting to get married. And then they asked, do they want kids? Once again, this reflects the other survey that I just quoted. And only about half want kids. And no, that's the married one. Oh, and this was an interesting one. A new NBC poll. So basically, who's more likely to want kids and want to get married? Men who backed Donald Trump rated having children and also getting married at the top of their priorities. But women who backed Kamala Harris rated it second to last. So in other words, if you're conservative, you want marriage and you want children and you're more pro-family. And if you're left-wing, liberal, Democrat, family is at the bottom of the priority. Anti-family. Does that surprise you? No, it doesn't surprise me at all. So, but it is a concern. Somebody has commented natural selection good, and that may be true. But I do think this whole toxic masculinity, trad wives, carbon footprint of having children harm the planet. Unfortunately, for females especially, that message is starting to affect them. And conservatives are going to have to do overtime and have more children and make sure they get married, I guess. All right, we are out of time. Just straight talk tonight. Here we are. Simon, Ate, Elliot, Ashley. Actually, we'll be discussing this and, of course, politics as well. One of the things we're going to discuss tonight, which I'm interested in, is do they think Winston might do a 2017 and go with Labour next year? And will Luxon last to the election? That'll be an interesting discussion. Anyway, that's it. I'm out of time. Thank you for all your comments. I've seen them coming through. It's been a busy morning. I'm glad I got to air because my camera wasn't working, so my tech guy got an early wake-up call. But never mind, we made it. Have a great Monday. See you tonight on Straight Talk at 8 o'clock.